7,140 days. This is the amount of time between Roberto Ravaglia winning his final DTM race for BMW and the brand's illustrious return to the sport. 20 years of Germany's premier touring car championship without Bavaria's motor racing masterclass. If distance makes the heart grow fonder, then this might just be the comeback of the decade, the defining moment for DTM's 2010s. And let's just say that in terms of spectacle, it did not disappoint. It's a tale of twists and turns, betrayal, perseverance, and bravery, a perfect storm of elements thrown together to create touring car magic on German soil. This is DTM 2012, the return of BMW. For starters, let's establish why there was such a long gap between Ravaglia's triumph and BMW's return. Back in 1992, BMW had decided to quit the Deutsche Tourenwagenmeisterschaft due to a multitude of reasons. Rising costs within the Class 1 rule set didn't entice the Munich outfit, nor were they pleased with how that season's political wranglings with Audi had been handled. Instead of burning more money in Germany's premier Tin Top series, they elected to join up with Audi to compete in the ADAC Super Tourenwagen Cup. This was to be their home from 1994 to 1998, with an international super touring program revolving around the E36 320i. McLaren's legendary F1 supercar was to be powered by the brute force BMW V12 in endurance racing, to add to their presence in the world of motorsport. Furthermore, by the late 1990s, rumors and rumblings had started regarding their return to the world of Grand Prix racing. All of this was to culminate with an official announcement on September 8th, 1997.
Und zwar möchten wir im Jahre 2000 wieder auf den Rennpisten, wo die Formel 1 fährt, dabei sein.
BMW was to re-enter Formula 1, supporting Williams in their quest for monoposto glory. While Munich was building its core of around 200 people, they were also working on a Le Mans project, which would end up winning the 1999 edition of the 24-hour race. Throughout this turbulent time, German touring car racing was going through its very own adolescence. DTM, as we had known it, had died in late 1996, with super touring never catching on in this part of the world. Rising costs and a limited return on investment had stopped BMW's factory involvement, with discussions behind closed doors focusing on reintroducing DTM in 2000. In case you want to learn more about how the series was revived, I'd highly recommend you check out JM69's video on this rather fascinating saga. However, as involved as BMW was in these discussions, they would pull out of entering DTM 2000, citing their focus on Formula 1 racing. And if we're to look at the statistics from 2000 to 2009, they weren't too far off with their assessment. 10 wins, 62 podiums, 19 fastest laps, 18 pole positions. At times, they were considered to have built the strongest engine in the sport. Yet, once the dust had settled on their involvement, there was no world championship to celebrate, neither at Williams nor at Sauber. Sure, they'd continued to stand tall in the world of touring car racing, retaking charge as part of the FIA World Touring Car Championship. They dominated at the 24 hours of the Nürburgring with their beautiful GTR box. Still, their flagship Grand Prix program, their main operation, never clinched the ultimate prize. In mid-2009, BMW announced the end of their Formula One adventure, leaving Sauber, their recently acquired Swiss outfit, in some turmoil. Obviously, fans and employees were less than thrilled about this decision, with many believing it to be a short-sighted call in reaction to a disappointing 2009 season. Another factor many fans might not be aware of is what Dr. Mario Tyson called a change in strategy with regards to the company. There are many issues to deal with in a company, and when the board of directors says this is not where we want to position the brand, there's not a lot you can do. According to Tyson, the past 15 years or so show that BMW did indeed fulfill said change, of course, and did not just lie through their teeth. And at the very least, this disappointing end opened the door for what turned out to be a new beginning. Throughout all of this, the new DTM had been through what I would call a difficult puberty. They had managed to position themselves front and center on German television, occupying a similar spot to the old BTCC on the BBC. Over here, it was ARD and ZDF, Germany's very own publicly funded TV channels that air DTM races. Formula One stars like Mika Häkkinen and Heinz-Harald Frentzen aided the championship in gaining more and more of a following, though the exit of Opel after the end of 2005 was anything but said assistance. The Deutsche Tourenwagen Masters, as it was now called, had always struggled to attract new manufacturers. So, from 2006 to 2011, only Mercedes-Benz and Audi were to compete on track. Most cars on the grid would be carried over from previous seasons, with only a handful of machines being of brand new spec. If nothing else, they'd highly appreciate the introduction or reintroduction of a third brand to turn the page on this convoluted chapter. October 15th, 2010. Less than 2 years after BMW's F1 exit, Mario Tyson announces the brand's DTM return for 2012. New rules provide the perfect basis for this re-entry into the fold, with an eye towards internationalization. Talks with Super GT and NASCAR once served as a beacon of hope, further enticing BMW to join the party. Their basis for this project? The legendary BMW M3, a stalwart of DTM history. Their chosen cast of characters? WTCC veterans Andy Priaulx, Augusto Farfus, or reigning DTM champion Martin Tomczyk, just to name a few. Among all these faces in DTM 2012, though, there's one name that sparked discourse and debate even before the first laps were turned around Hockenheim: Bruno Spengler. See, long before BMW had ever entertained their return to DTM, Bruno had essentially become a member of the Mercedes-Benz family. From his French-Canadian roots, he'd set out to compete in the 2003 Formula 3 Euro Series, a fusion between the French and German F3 programs of the time. For this endeavor, Spengler had joined the Stuttgart Stars Junior program, only to break his back before the season even got underway. I was very depressed when I broke my back in 2003. The doctors told me I wouldn't be able to race for 6 months. It was my first year as a Mercedes junior driver, and I thought that by the time I healed, my place would be taken by someone else. Turns out, he was not thrown out of the program. After missing 6 rounds, Bruno returned to the Formula 3 paddock, still a star shining bright on his Dallara chassis.
Der Bruno ist einer Querschnittslähmung entgangen, Gott sei Dank, bei einem Formel-3-Testunfall. Wir haben ihn gesund gepflegt gemeinsam und er hat immer den Rückhalt bei uns gehabt und das weiß er auch. Das ist so. Und nur so kann er die Leistung bringen.
That was Norbert Haug, Mercedes Motorsport boss, talking about Bruno in mid-2011. Obviously, the rumor mill had started to swirl all around the talented racer as he'd become a steady veteran of the series despite his tender age of 27. Year after year, he'd gotten closer and closer to the championship, impressing in every regard without ever clinching the crown at the end of the day. A change in scenery, a fresh reboot, was quite possibly inevitable. Behind the scenes, BMW constructed what you might consider a dream team, at least with hindsight at our disposal. They'd hired chief people like Andreas Seidel, future head of Porsche's LMP program, or McLaren's Formula One team. Adam Baker, chief engineer of the 4-liter V8 beast under the M3's hood, is now known as the chief engine guru for Cadillac's Formula One Odyssey. Motorsport.com's article on this subject also references Florian Modlinger, developing BMW's body shell at the time. These days, he's known for his exploits in Formula E, working for Porsche. Irrespective of the lineup, BMW were far from being considered the favorites. Audi and Mercedes had been racing in DTM for over a decade, developing these somewhat bizarre white-bodied high-tech touring cars. According to BMW Motorsport boss Jens Marquardt, not winning a single race would not have been considered a failure.
Die letzte Kurve für Bruno Spengler und der feiert hier seinen 10. DTM-Erfolg vor Gary Paffett.
Wait, what? Yes, that's Bruno Spengler in his black bank BMW, winning at the Lausitz Ring, round 2 of the 2012 DTM season. Nobody had expected this. Not Bruno, not BMW, not even their competitors. Can you imagine how foolish Spengler might have looked if this project had flopped? He'd already toiled at the Hockenheim opener thanks to a small coming together with Ralf Schumacher.
Ralf Schumacher!
This, in contrast, was BMW's first big exclamation mark of the season. They didn't come to play, they came to fight. Fittingly, Spengler had signed with BMW's Schnitzer outfit, arguably the brand's most iconic racing team, led by team boss Charlie Lam. It was the Schnitzer squad that clinched the 1989 DTM championship with Roberto Ravaglia, the same group that won BMW's final DTM races 3 years later, bowing out of the sport on a somber high. That being said, winning a race is one thing, fighting for a championship is a whole different kettle of fish. If anybody wanted to clinch the crown in 2012, they'd have to claw it out of this man's bare hands. Gary Paffett, Mercedes Golden Boy, 2005 DTM champion, former future Formula One McLaren candidate, Grand Prix test driver, leading the charge throughout most of the season. He spent the early part of 2012 on top of the table, winning the season opener at Hockenheim and his home race at Brands Hatch. Bruno's path wasn't as clear-cut throughout the first few weekends, with a second place finish in Brands Hatch, followed up by a DNF in Austria.
Suddenly I got a hit on the rear, on the right side. As I was turning into the corner, Jamie Green just braked a little too late and was very aggressive and kind of pushed me really wild into my teammate Joey Hand, and then my bonnet broke because of that and my car was just undrivable for the rest of the race.
Gary Paffett, 83, Bruno Spengler, 43. Mind you, they used the same point system that Formula One still uses to this day. Nürburgring's fearsome Norrisring provided the usual spectacle, soaked in a Franconian summer's thunderstorm drama all round as Gary Paffett received a love tap into turn 1. Bruno's day was solid, finishing the race in third behind BMW colleague Martin Tomczyk and Mercedes' Jamie Green. Paffett, possibly pissed off by the tumultuous T1 shenanigans, kept his car out of the barriers and climbed up to fourth. This would turn out to be a vital turning point in Bruno Spengler's campaign, not because he'd taken 3 points out of Paffett's enormous lead. All DTM teams had the opportunity to test their machinery around Manicourt in between round 5 and round 6. While this might be reminiscent of previous development races with costs tumbling out of control, ITR, the DTM's organizing body at the time, tried their best to avoid such a mess. For those that don't know, the BMW M3, the Mercedes C-Class Coupe, and the Audi A5 all shared the same chassis under the hood, as illustrated by Sam Collins on his YouTube channel. This was not the utter madness because of which BMW and Audi had left DTM in 1992, with the mechanical systems, gearbox, steering system, and the like all spec parts shared by all three manufacturers. Aerodynamic development was non-existent for 2 years as the body shell's shape had been homologated ahead of the start of the season. Nevertheless, if DTM 2012 was gonna turn into a blockbuster finish, BMW better do their best and blast past these silver coupes with whatever they had at their disposal.
This is the man that from start to finish has looked almost in a class of his own, driving that BMW DTM machine as he rounds the hairpin for the final time then. Is he going to take another win here? It's undoubted as he takes the checkered flag. Bruno Spengler does it again for BMW.
Bruno Spengler did it again, winning from pole position for the second time this season, controlling the race throughout. Paffett only finished in 6th place, 23.7 seconds behind his main contender for the final 4 races. Gary Paffett 103 points, Bruno Spengler 83 points, 20 between the two. DTM's Dutch adventure at Zandvoort saw neither of our championship contenders on the front row, with Audi's Timo Scheider and Mike Rockenfeller taking the top spots. Paffett's P8 and Spengler's P18 were less than ideal starting spots, though both of them climbed their way through the field throughout Sunday afternoon. In fact, Paffett had performed so incredibly well that he found himself in 4th with only a couple of laps to go, Spengler somewhere down in 8th.
Jetzt Marquardt, Motorsportchef von BMW. Thompson geht daneben. Und Thompson dreht Paffett um. Albuquerque geradeaus. Es ist zu nass offensichtlich in dieser ersten Kurve.
Mercedes' championship leader was able to continue, though his chances at a podium finish had been wrecked.
Gary, that was pretty tough and hard racing. Was it always fair?
No, I mean, how can anybody look at it and say it was fair? I got taken out the race, so no, not at all.
So Martin Tomczyk said sorry to Norbert Haug. Do you guys have to talk?
He's already said sorry, but there's no explanation. No, man, fuck off. And if you do something stupid like that, sorry isn't enough.
What does it mean for the championship now?
We lost points again for the 3rd race in a row, and twice I've been taken out of the race. You know, I must paint a target on the back of my car, I think.
Spengler finished in 6th, with Paffett 7 seconds behind in 7th. Paffett 109 points, Spengler 91. Oschersleben saw Spengler duel with Paffett throughout the afternoon. No nonsense between the two contenders, whereas most other drivers experienced some form of bullshit that day. Spengler controlled the first 2 stints, but Mercedes #1 clawed himself closer and closer to the BMW ace in the last few laps. Nonetheless, it was in vain.
Great job, man! Great job!
Yes! 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 Yahoo! Thank you, guys.
0.6 seconds separated them at the finish line. 11 points between them in the championship standings. Jamie Green, an outside contender in 3rd, but let's be honest, we all know who's gonna define the final 2 races at this point. Qualifying in Valencia went terribly wrong for all championship hunters. Spengler in 12th, Paffett in 16th, Green in 18th. New asphalt hindered most Mercedes runners in finding a good setup, whereas Mr. Spengler just missed out on advancing to the next quali stage by 6 1/1000ths of a second. Well, to be fair, things were only gonna get worse into T1 and T2.
Hände umgedreht, trifft Paffett, trifft Green, trifft Vitoris. Ja, da geht er innen rein. Da ist Gary Paffett natürlich auch nicht ganz unschuldig.
And if you do something stupid like that, sorry isn't enough.
Now, it would be easy to paint a picture of Paffett losing his cool, slowly but surely succumbing to the pressure of losing a supposedly easy championship. It's a narrative that TV channels like ARD, Germany's equivalent to the BBC, had been weaving for weeks. That said, one has to keep in mind just how far off the pace Mercedes was around Valencia and its refurbished track surface. Maybe Mercedes' main hope didn't have any other choice but to strike when the iron was hot and the gap was there, small as it might have been. Paffett would receive a 2-second stop-go penalty in the pits. Not ideal, though a far cry from what Bruno Spengler was about to encounter. His start actually went rather well, with Schnitzer's main man well on course to score vital points.
But apparently Spengler is adjudged to have made a jump start.
Spengler missed the mark by fractions of a second and was adamant on the radio that he had not done anything wrong.
Okay, Bruno, you have to come in, do the drive-through. You have to come in.
I did do a jump start. I know it. I'm not telling it. Forget it.
Bruno, we have to do it. We have to do it. Otherwise, we are black flagged.
In the end, Schnitzer convinced Spengler to serve his penalty.
Bruno, you're still ahead of Paffett. You're still ahead of Paffett, and our BMW speed is good, so we can do everything, and after that, we will argue.
BMW was to benefit off of Joey Hand driving right ahead of championship contender Jamie Green. This allowed Bruno Spengler to catch up to the silver Mercedes immediately after serving his penalty.
Jahrelang sind sie zusammengefahren bei Mercedes, Jamie Green und Bruno Spengler. Jetzt kämpfen sie gegeneinander um den Titel für Mercedes und für BMW.
Spengler went into the pits one lap after Green, trying to execute an overcut on Lester's favorite son, and he did so successfully.
Und jetzt gibt es eine Durchfahrtsstrafe gegen Jamie Green wegen Verlassens der Strecke in Kurve 1 unmittelbar nach dem Boxenstopp. Und das ist in der Fahrerbesprechung so festgelegt worden, dass das nicht geht.
Unbelievably, all three title aspirants were caught being naughty that day. Paffett and Green were tied to midfield misery, Gary eventually retiring on lap 28. Bruno Spengler, on the other hand, was to bounce back with a vengeance, climbing up the field, benefiting off of two Audis suffering with brake issues and the friendly assistance of some BMW colleagues. Bruno Spengler's finishing position? P6. Green got himself a 10th place to celebrate, though if it wasn't clear enough, this was to focus on a one-on-one duel in Hockenheim. Gary Paffett, 127, Bruno Spengler, 124, 3 points between them. Thankfully, both of our main characters for this adventure didn't suffer from their previous qualifying misery. Gary Paffett qualified in second, just 7/1000ths of a second ahead of Bruno Spengler in third. Hype was guaranteed for Sunday, not just because of a titanic duel between Mercedes and BMW. 2012 had been a huge success for the sport in general, with attendance figures climbing significantly compared to previous seasons. According to Sport 1 and Motorsporttotal.com, DTM was able to rake in an average of 1.3 million viewers per race on German television. Nowhere near the heights of the mid-2000s boom period by any stretch, but a respectable basis to work with. And those 1.3 million were about to witness one more chapter of this thrill ride.
Barfuß kommt gut weg, Paffett kommt schlecht weg, Spengler geht vorbei, Bruno Spengler geht vorbei an Gary Paffett. Oh, Joey Hand ist da direkt vor Gary Paffett. Paffett versucht's außen, aber Ekström ist drin. Noch eine Berührung, Hand geht weit und Paffett schlüpft innen durch. Barfuß
Geht rein.
Und Paffett auch. Und Paffett gegen Fahrfuß. Was ist das für ein Duell? Paffett setzt sich durch.
As much as Norbert Haug had originally proclaimed that Bruno Spengler was one of Mercedes' own, he was about to make history for BMW. 20 years after Roberto Ravaglia's final DTM victory, the Bavarian brand was to return and style Spengler their fourth running poster boy. It's only fitting that back when his father first introduced him to the world of go-karts, he'd bought a BMW M3, which Bruno absolutely adored as a kid. Now, the 29-year-old DTM veteran was to go from bridesmaid to bride, solidifying the greatest comeback in DTM history. From broken back to championship dreams, M3 malaise to coupe return, outsider and underdog yearning its glorious past to new leading light into DTM's future.
So tell me